Thank you very much, Freak. And with that win, Curse have tied up the series, and we'll be taking Dignitas into a Game 3. There's a whole lot to talk about in that game. I want to go right back to the beginning very quickly, because the second game in a row now that I felt Dignitas got a slight advantage early on. 4.5, 5 minutes in the clock. Curse lost their inhibitor turret, and we were looking at a Quast like hesitated to jump in with Jackson. It was against 4 members, of course, but the early tower swapping, not necessarily Curse's strong points so far this series.
Yeah, it looked like Quast was a little late getting to the 2v1, and he also, he was hesitant jumping in. Nobody really had mana, and you had people right behind you. The tower was still up. I think he should have been a little bit more aggressive with that, but I mean, he brushed the nerves off pretty quick, and he like took that game over.
Yeah, Quast went 8-0-7 on Jax. And Saint and I were talking about this too. This was one of the craziest games we've seen all split. There were a lot of fights down the stretch in the last 5 or 10 minutes that could have ended the series.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that Curse ended up pulling this one out.
Yeah, very exciting to watch. Now, talk to me why that mid-game went as back and forth as it did. I do want to highlight that I think both Bunny Fufu and Kiwi Kid stepped up their engages. I've seen much more skill shots landing. And at different points, but at the end of the day, most of the fights went in favor of Curse. Is it purely because they had hard engage and their champions did slightly better in those fights, or was it Dig being out of position? What's your take?
I think they proved really early on that they were able to close in on positioning if Dignitas was anywhere. The amount of times they could jump onto Scars in Italy, really early on, we saw them pile on the mid lane once they killed Scar. And at that point, we're saying, they can kill Italy if they get the positioning. And it was Curse, I feel like, relaxing, bringing a much harder initiation onto their team. The Jax for Quas, taking it out of the hands for Cruiser, was huge. And I think that's probably the contested pick coming in Game 3.
Yeah, I think Jax is probably going to be the biggest contested pick here. I mean, Cruiser shined on it, Quas shined on it, and it just, takes the game over. There was one fight where Cop, the fight started with him getting hooked and instantly killed. And I was like, oh my god, it's done for Curse, it's over.
And then Quas just jumped in.
Yeah, I was like, oh good. And he ended up cleaning the whole fight up, and
we'll get to that a little bit later. I do want to quickly just touch on Bunny Fufu and Leona. Game 1, not that great. This game was a lot better. There was a kill in 13 or 14 minutes where he completely stunlocked Skara. Then less than 2 minutes later, he sort of re-engages defending his turret, goes down. I was much happier with his performance in Game 2. You touched on the fact that Quas sort of shook off some of the nerves. In general, Curse seemed more alive in this game. And do you think it is just settling down and getting into the rhythm again?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they were still a little bit behind when it came to the rotations, but at least they were there to defend the turret this time. And yeah, they were actually there holding the turrets and prolonging the game and taking it out of that fast push that Nidalee really likes. So I think that's a big factor.
I would say as the game progressed, they got more and more over their nerves. Right at the start, Quas was a little hesitant. Even through the mid game, Bunny Fufu was making some bad mistakes, but by the end of it, they seemed comfortable, and I think that carries all the momentum through to the next game.
Well, we'll see, because one of the things that gave them a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence was a Dignitas Baron. Let me put it that way. Let's pull the first replay up onto your screen right now. Old Dignitas Scar is back. They start the B word, as we have seen countless times before. Chat, do you want to talk us through Curse's positioning and maybe what Dignitas did or didn't do right? Let's roll this replay.
It actually felt like Curse might actually win the game straight off of this one, because there is a Jax split pushing. All 5 members of Curse are at full health, and he has the teleport up with the pink ward inside. It is just a disaster waiting to happen. Look how low they are before the fight even starts. Yes, Kiwi Kid got a flay onto I Will Dominate, and thank God Crumbs was able to smite this one down, because it could have been a disaster. You trap 5 people in the Baron Pit like that against a Lulu, Glitterlance, all the shields, and a Jax. It's just death.
And that's exactly what we've seen. Atypical Dignitas. I mean, they shook off the B word towards the middle of the spring split this time round, costing them. I think one of the questions I have to ask you is, did Dignitas need to go for Baron? I mean, you've seen on the map there, Jax was busy split pushing. He already had his Trinity Force built by that point, and Quas was becoming that monster. Was that the tool they needed, or were there other options available to Dignitas?
I think that they definitely had to go for Baron there. That's just what Jax does. He makes you force your hand. And Jax still had the TP up, so he could come into Baron. Wasn't Trundle's TP down? I'm pretty sure it was down at the time. Yeah, so he has no TP to sit there and hold the Jax. They have to force something, and they have to force Jax to come to the fight. Thank God for Dignitas that Crumbs did end up hitting that smite. If he didn't, that would have probably been the end of the game right there.
Yeah, he hit a couple smites. I would say they didn't need to go for Baron in that fashion necessarily. I think they probably should have actually had Cruiser back on Trundle and try and just force Dignitas to TP in and try a 5v4 Baron, because at least they wouldn't just be opting into a screwed up fight for them. Overall, though, they were in a bad situation, and I think they made a slightly suboptimal call.
Well, I really like the decision-making in this game because you've seen it swing in control from each team. Now, the team fight we were discussing a little bit earlier where Quash just jumped in. This is our second replay. Let's pull this one up onto your screens. It takes place fairly late in the game, a couple minutes before it ends, actually, and it's going to take place in this middle lane. So let's roll this one out. And Saint, I know you were talking quite excitedly about Quash and how he just sort of man-modes it up here once the fight breaks out.
Yeah, so I see this happening. I'm like, all right, nice. They're going to get away. And then somehow Kiwi Kid hit so many good hooks this game. You can see it right here. He just nailed one right on Cop and just blew him up instantly. I thought this was the end of the game right here. But Quas is just such a powerhouse at this point. You can see him. He's just bulldozing Cutie Pie down. He doesn't care who is on him. Just takes out 2 members of the team on his own. So I think in a straight head-to-head team fight, Curse is just a much better team. You can't fight head-on with Nidalee. You have to hit a little bit of poke first.
Very good play there from Dignitas. The Jax really shining through. So 2 for 2 on Jax this series so far. Both teams, some minor mistakes here and there. But in general, that was a little bit more about Curse, especially in comparison to Game 1. They're feeling good. You've discussed the momentum. Pretty happy with their performance so far.
I think Curse was actually a little lucky to win that game because of the mistakes they made earlier. I think of the Dragon fight that happened earlier on in the game where they tried to kill Voy Boy, then Bunny Fufu went in and died, and like, oh, at least they got the Dragon, but they're down like 3,000 or 4,000 gold. I do think they played much more to their style, and the momentum should carry them through to Game 3, but man, that game was so crazy. Even now, it's like a 55-45 who wins.
Well, we're hearing about the Twitter vote, #CurseWin, #DigWin. We've been talking predictions, we've talked momentum. I want to know who's taking the series. Jet, is it Dignitas or Curse that will face Cloud9 tomorrow?
That is a bold thing. Right now, I have to go with Curse with the momentum.
Saint?
Well,
he can't.
I wonder who
This is such a tough seat to be in.
Maybe Curse?
Maybe Curse. Not convinced, though.
No, I don't know.
It's incredibly close.
They're momentum-based. I'd say they're a heavily momentum-based team, and the nerves are gone. They do the right band pick phase. Hopefully they carry it.
See, not convinced. So Jet's feeling the confidence. Saint locking it in. We'll have to see how it works out. Guys, we do need to take a very quick break. And when we come back, it is Game 3 between Dignitas versus Curse to see who will come out on top and advance to our second semi-final series. Stay tuned.